All right, so the only real difference in the base phase here is we're going to do a couple of things that are going to be specific more towards these motor endurance events. The first one is rough sculpting. I'll explain to you what that is in a second. The second one is weight training, much more for only the sport-specific muscles. Yeah, the same thing is going to be true for running, where we're going to do most of our work in the lower body there. So if we're swimmers, we're going to be doing a lot of pulls. We're going to be doing a lot of upper body back work. If we're going to be rowers, we're going to do legs and explosive things for the shoulders. If we're going to be paddlers, we're going to do more back work. All of those things are going to be, those sport-specific motor muscles. We don't want to make, like if we're a paddler, if we're a canoeist, and we're paddling and we're an endurance paddler, we don't want to have a big lower body. We want to look like those guys at the gym who are afraid to work their legs. They got the little twiggy legs and the big old upper body. That's what you want to look like if you want to be a great paddler, because your weight is low, but your power and the working muscles are high. All right, so let's talk about this rough sculpting. So what do we mean by rough sculpting? Oh, first of all, why do we strength train? We strength train to decrease injury rate, and this is seen here. Heavy strength training decreases injury rate by about 2/3. And that's again because we get that heavy load, we get that sliding of the collagen molecules at the end of the myotendinous junction. As that happens, you break cross links, the tendon becomes less stiff, the muscle stays strong. All right, so now we're looking at that for strength training. That's one of the reasons we do it. The other reason is to maintain the strength and power of those muscles. So rough sculpting. All right, so I'm going to give you an example here using Bradley Wiggins. So Sir Bradley Wiggins was a world champion, a Tour de France champion, and an Olympic champion. Right, so he's obviously a cyclist. You can see what he looked like towards the end. He had almost no upper body, and he had big, strong legs. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is increase his power to weight ratio. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to decrease his upper body mass, both muscle and fat, and we're going to maintain the leg power and mass. All right, so here are the specifics for Brad Wiggins. So basically in the Tour de France in 2008, he weighed 76 kilos, which is not very big. 3 months later, he was competing in the Beijing Olympics weighing 82 kilos. It's on the track. He was doing shorter weight work, so carrying that mass is not as big a deal. When you're going on the Tour de France, it's 3 weeks going up and down Category 4 hit mountains. It's incredible. All right, so you can't weigh 82 kilos on the Tour de France and be considered a favorite to win. In 2009 in the Tour de France, he weighed 72 kilos. Again, he's come down a full 10 kilos. 4% body fat. Came third that year, did really well. Really wanted to win though. So now you look at this and you say, 72 kilos, 4% body fat. There's not much more body fat I can lose because 4% is just at the bottom of the detectable range. So now what you want to say is, okay, how do you then manage this? What are we going to do to get that extra weight loss to increase his power to weight ratio so that he can continue to compete? Well, when you look in 2012, 3 years later, 69 kilos. So he lost another 3 kilos of body mass. You know that it's not coming from body fat, so most of that is going to come from lean mass. Most of that lean mass is coming off the upper body. Almost all of it's coming off the lower upper body. So what you can see is from 2012 tour, from the original 2008 tour, he's 7 kilos or 15 pounds lighter. He won the Tour de France in 2012. He then 3 weeks later went on to win a gold medal in the individual pursuit in London by over 40 seconds. Okay, outstanding. So exactly how did we do this? How did he do this? So what he did is he did this low-calorie diet, and the diet was all leucine-rich protein. Okay, because the low-calorie, what we're talking about here is 500 calories a day. Okay, infinitely small caloric intake for somebody like this. So all of it's going to be protein, and all of it is going to be targeted to the muscles you're working by taking it immediately after the training sessions. So you've got lots of blood flow going to the working muscles. So those working muscles are going to see all the protein, and those protein-rich muscles are going to stay, and everything else is going to go away. The other key, you got to train at intensity that activates the muscles you want to maintain. What do we want to maintain? Our type 2 big hard working motor units. So what you have to do, what he did, is he cycled very hard. So you're taking in 500 calories a day and you're cycling very hard. I can tell you, he's not a pleasant man when he does this. And so from experience, in the first time he did this, I was sitting with his performance nutritionist when he called on the third day of this whole event. It only lasts 3 days. And he called down, and I was across the table, and I could hear him screaming at his nutritionist. He was not a happy man. 500 kilocalories a day, that is 2 big glasses of milk, essentially. Not a lot of energy. And so when you're training at that high intensity, basically he melted away about a kilo and a half of upper body mass over those 3 days. Legs stayed exactly the same size. His power was exactly the same. When he called us on that third day, he was about 140 kilometers away from home at the top of a Category 5 mountain, Category 4 mountain. So he had just worked as hard as he possibly could to get to the top of the mountain. He was shot. There was nothing he could do. He was taking it out on his poor nutritionist, Nigel. Not a pretty